Hey, Brass Facts here. Today we're going to be checking out the Bull Armory TAC 2 4.25. That's a mouthful. We're just going to call it the TAC 2. It's a aluminum lightweight carry commander style 2011 or 1911 double stack in 9mm. Look, right out of the gate, I gotta be honest with you guys. I'm not a 2011 dude. I'm not even a 1911 dude. I'm barely a Glock dude. I just kind of carry a gun and call it a day. So, because the extent of my experience is mostly limited to pumpkin spice latte of the gun world, the Glock 19 with a RMR and flashlight, I would recommend that you take a lot of this with a grain of salt. And if you really do want some down and dirty information, I would recommend going over to Jake from State Farm, from 1911 Syndicate, and watching his video on this topic, or really just 2011s in general. He knows a lot more about this stuff than I do. He lives and breathes 1911s. I think the channel name would give it away in this case. But since you're obviously bored and your lunch break and need something to watch, you can go ahead and watch me instead compare this 2011 Bull Armory 1911 double stack, whatever, to a Glock or a Staccato for like the umpteenth time. So we do need to get this part of the way. Bull Armory sent me this gun for free to keep, right? I get to keep it after this review. The only stipulation, well, I gotta do the review. All right, so that's your, I think your disclaimers, your warnings, your 1911 Syndicate simpage. I think those are the pre-flights done. Let's do the video.
I'm viewing this gun as either a duty, so LE, or concealed carry gun exclusively. Yes, I know people do competition. I've done competition. I've done competition with carry optics with this gun, but I don't really think this is a min-max competition gun. There are better guns for that, unless you just want to compete with what you carry, which, super based. But then you're full circle back to this being a carry or duty gun. The whole gimmick of this, at least on paper, is that it's lightweight, commander-style, double-stack 1911 that sheds a noticeable amount of weight to make it appealing for carry all day, every day. A Glock with a light and optic, 24 ounces or so. Standard size double stack 1911, 40 ounces. Commander size, so this thing, about 4¼ inch barrel, are gonna bring that weight down to about 30 ounces, low 30 ounces. So take something like the Staccato P, 33 ounces. The Prodigy, well, actually also basically 33 ounces. We can switch to an aluminum material for the frame and drop the weight of the Stussiato about to 28 ounces. The TAC 2 from Bull Armory takes it a step further with a plastic lower area grip module with everything else being aluminum. It also has slide cuts in the frame to null the weight of the optic, which gets us to a weight of just over 27 ounces or 28.25 ounces with an optic and optic plate. If you put the magwell back in, you're going to be about 28.8 ounces all said and done. That is not insignificant weight savings when you have this thing strapped to your hip all day, which I did for 6 months. No, really. I mean, I know no one looks at background footage even though I put so much work into it, but pay attention to the footage. Some of it is in the middle of summer and I'm sweating my balls off in 110-degree weather, and some of it I'm bundled up, it's snowing, and there's snow on the ground. And I mean, obviously you know when this video comes out. You can tell, I've been carrying and living this gun for quite a long time. Because I'm a little bitch and I used to have scoliosis, there is absolutely, for me, a threshold of weight where I really start getting messed up after a long day, and within a couple days redevelop some knee and hip problems that I used to have. Old man brass facts. This gun with an X300, a ever-increasing size of phone, a slim DACA Magpul wallet, belt, and maybe a TQ tend to be right at the cusp of that weight threshold for me, and I know from experience that even a 5 to 10 ounce increase begins to cause issue depending on how long I carry it. In fact, some days if I'm doing a lot of walking, this gun even begins causing issues for me. I know some people are going to be like, suck it up, but in my opinion, this isn't really a case of the aforementioned sucking up. We're not doing a 10-mile ruck. This is your daily carry weight, and like with heavy helmets putting weight on your neck, you have the potential to majorly mess up your alignment, posture, nerves, and joints, overstressing them over a long period of time, potentially decades. Your mileage will in fact vary a lot.
Nightline has been a long-time supporter of the channel. Back when we didn't even have any sponsors over here at the Assfax Emporium, they took a chance with us and gave us a lot of sponsorship slots, which really helped on early on in the Brass Facts kind of lifespan. The point is, you can go to Nightline and buy night vision and use a pretty hefty 15% discount code if you tell them BrassFacts sent you. A key aspect when you purchase from Nightline is at this time you actually have to email or call them to get your tubes. Now this is sort of a pain in the ass, but when you consider this is like used car money, it is kind of nice to be able to, talk with someone to figure out which tubes you're getting, what qualities you're getting, what the blems are, you name it. So, of course, once again, don't buy night vision if you can't afford it, and more importantly, if you are going to buy one, shop around, look for a good deal. But I think you'll find that Nightline is pretty damn competitive.
Let's take a look at this thing just real quick. Unfortunately, these are 2011s, or double stack 1911s, so they're all using the same footprint, and the devil's in the details, and I don't really understand the details, not being a 2011 guy, but we'll do my best here. Big thing, I conceal carry this thing. It works with 2011, so staccato style holsters. Just make sure you get the right slide length and you'll be off to the races. As mentioned, this is an aluminum plastic hybrid, but the plastic begins at a kind of tasteful point, so about the trigger guard and down is plastic, and everything above that is metal. This includes the accessory, or let's be real, the flashlight rail, and thus you're not going to run into issues where you over-torque the flashlight and then crush the recoil spring assembly or something like that. I think I've already mentioned this, but to be sure, this is not 2011 or staccato mag compatible. So if you have a bunch of staccato mags, you can do the mil-spec Moser thing where you mash it in and then hold the gun, but they're not compatible, right? And of course, like with everything 2011s, they're expensive as balls. Really, the only upside of these is that compared to the staccato mags, they can hold about 1 or 2 more rounds. Some people mention that the first round is hard to insert, it kind of jams up, but once you figure out the technique, who cares? And in fact, I find that these mags are significantly more reliable than the staccato mags, which tend to turn into tic-tac simulators really quick if you put any dirt in it.
Oh no. Oh yeah. So it fucked both of them up. Oh, I killed your mag too. New mag.
Oh, no.
Fit and finish, yeah, looks good, right? The staccato seemed to feel a little bit smoother, a bit more rounded around certain edges, but overall in a roughly similar tier despite being significantly cheaper. Speaking of price, about $1,700. I'd recommend getting the optics cut in this day and age. You're going to want to put a dot on this thing, and this thing comes ready to go for a optics plate, not just a specific cut. Unfortunately though, right now you can only get an RMR cut, so yes, it's cut for an optics plate, but there's only one cut. I talked to the owner of Bull Armory and he said there are plans for it in the future, but because they're behind on demand, don't worry, and we'll talk about that later, at this time there's no plans for different optic cuts. The grip is super grippy, really nice at the range. Almost too grippy for concealed carry, but it actually wears in. So after about 2 months of misery, it very much smoothed out a little bit at the back there and was no longer that uncomfortable. Or I don't know, I destroyed all the nerve endings back there, so who knows. Some other neat features exist on this thing, like a swappable trigger shoe, so you can just swap it out, no problem. You don't need to take apart the gun, it's just a very small component. It also comes with a very nice magwell. That being said, because I'm concealed carrying it, I ditched that almost immediately. It's not a bad magwell, I just don't think it fits when you're concealed carrying. Overall, in terms of how the gun feels, because I know a lot of people, myself included, not just view this as a tool, but kind of a work of art or something that you can be proud of. Craftsmen are proud of their tools. It's okay to own guns and be proud of the gun. I think this absolutely reaches that threshold where you can be proud of it. It feels smooth, nice in the hand, looks good, you name it.
This is all Hop lives for. Hop lives to fund his existence.
The cat that pronounces the word meow. Have you seen this one?
The SHOT Show Day 3 delirium is in full swing.
No, it's a good cat. There he is. There he is.
Hold on.
All right, I'm going back to work now.
You've had your cats.
Okay, so that's how the gun feels. But unlike 50% of 2011 owners, we're here to not just feel the gun, we're here to actually shoot it. So the big question is, how much did those weight savings, mess with the gun? Accuracy-wise, it was, I don't know. I think the term is actually not accuracy, it's precision, but whatever, I'm using accuracy. I personally believe that accuracy in modern handguns have eclipsed 99% of shooters. You can take a stock Glock Gen 5 with the stock barrel and put 10 shots in the X-ring on a B8 if you're an absolute freak of nature beast that beast blowers. Bill blowers, though beast blowers is actually pretty fitting here. It's a nice bonus, absolutely, don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to give it any bonus points for being, this level of accuracy. Now, the trigger is what matters. The trigger doesn't change the mechanical accuracy, but it does change the practical accuracy. Actual correct use of the word accuracy this time. I don't mind running a Glock. However, when you put one of these in my hands, either the Staccato or the Bull Armory, suddenly, things that used to be very difficult for me and require a really elongated shot process suddenly feel 10 times easier. I don't know, 5 times easier? Who knows? For example, draw, shoot at a 25-yard target may as well be 10 yards. Draw, shoot, 100-yard target feels a lot like 25. The trigger just makes you a lot more consistent if you have the skills to back it up. Now, absolutely, I think a lot of people are using nice 2011 triggers as a crutch to mask very aggressive flinch, but hey, even then, technically, it's, putting out some useful utility. Look, do I really need to justify that a really nice trigger that makes an AR-15 trigger almost blush is gonna do good things? No, obviously not. 2011s have good triggers. Everyone appreciates a good trigger. The 4.25 TAC-2, I hate saying all of that's a tongue twister. The TAC-2 has a damn good trigger. Better than, yes, a modern Staccato. Both of them have roughly the same pre-travel, but the Staccato has a little bit of schlop. You can even see it in the video, and the Bull Armory has almost no schlop. You can't see it in the video. To be sure, the Staccato has a really good trigger, but the Bull, yeah, it's better. Recoil-wise is where I think the weight savings really become noticeable. I'll argue that all 19 and 2011s have a bit of a muzzle flip issue because, physics and lever arms. And the reality is 1911s and 2011s have a monstrous bore axis. But even within this paradigm, the TAC-2 tends to track up just a little bit more than something like a Staccato P, and it certainly, you can tell, feels a bit more snappy. When shooting cyclic, so something like a bill drill, remember, these are numbers for me, your mileage may vary, but I found a stock Glock 19 is pushing about 0.28 splits. Yeah, I know, slow as balls. A comped Glock 19 is pushing about 0.25 for me, and the 4.25 TAC is doing about 0.22. The Staccato P, so basically a slightly heavier version of the 4.25 TAC, is doing about 0.2 or 0.19. Finally, for fun, the absolute freak of nature XC Staccato is doing 0.18. And in fact, I could have probably shot that thing faster. My trigger rate was the limiting factor, not waiting for the gun to reset. But, that's not a real gun. Outside of gaming it with the boys, though, these times practically don't mean anything. It's all fast enough. To me, the real value is how controllable the gun is, especially as we push the range out. Going cyclic on a Glock 19 is a bit like riding a bull. No, actually, bad analogy, but you get it. You're coming off the rails a little bit. The comped KKM Glock 19 was a much tamer version of the stock 19, with both lower muzzle flip and far less felt recoil, and the whole platform just felt a little bit more stable. The Bull TAC-2 is even less recoil than the comped Glock 19 in my opinion, or maybe about the same, but we're noticing a bit more muzzle flip here. The Staccato P is an even less intense version of the Bull, but by far less margins than the aforementioned. I think the best way to sum it up is, if you're used to other 2011s, the TAC-2 is going to be a snappy boy. If you're coming from a striker gun, like I am, you're going to notice a little bit of muzzle flip by comparison, but almost no felt recoil as well. To me, I think these are good trade-offs considering how much notably lighter this gun is compared to some of the other 2011 contemporaries. Okay, I've been dreading this part. Reliability. Let's get to the down and dirty. Every time you go, to a store and you ask for the 2011 behind the counter and you pick it up and you rack it 4 times and you say the exact same thing everyone says, wow, ball bearings, amazing. And then you dry fire it for about 2 minutes while making small talk with the clerk, and then you give it back to him and walk away because you're actually just window shopping. That has consequences. The ball bearing part, not the chronic window shopper, that part just damns your soul to eternal damnation, whatever. Being a high tolerance machined, piece of equipment, we get a lot of benefits. We also get a lot of issues when we begin to mess with that tolerance, and I think it's beginning to become a little bit of copeland to say that 2011s have even close to the level of reliability of, say, any striker fire handgun. If all you're doing is shooting in an indoor range, or maybe even a rock pit style range, which is mostly just large gravel that can't get into the action, sure, you're probably fine. For the first 1,000 rounds, I shot this at an indoor range the entire time, 0 malfunction issues. The gun ran flawlessly, even though it was a complete disgusting pig. But because I live in a partially colonized lake bed, in practice I typically could only get to about 500 to 800 rounds before the gun began to have some issues or just completely flatlined, depending on how dirty the gun got. Fredel 147, AAC 147, Lawman 147, Lawman 124, and an entire smorgasbord of I don't really remember 124 and 115 grades. There just comes to a point where the gun says, fuck you, clean me, and you better clean it or you're going to get a lot of malfunction practice. That being said, I don't think this is a Bull Armory issue. I think this is a 2011 issue. And the Stussiatos we had fared no better. On a 3-day range trip, for example, we brought a Staccato, started it partially lubed, and we got to the point where it began to heavily malfunction at 500 rounds. If we pushed to 800, that gun would have been a brick. Lubing it doesn't fix the problem because the issue isn't that it's unlubed, though that certainly is something you need to do. The issue is that the locking lugs and all the contact surfaces just get completely bound up with stuff. Just due to the design, tend to hold on to that dirt, unlike a striker gun, which seems to kind of just, shuttle it out the back. Now, I don't typically do intentional torture tests, ain't my thing, but here, for fun, we just decided to drop magazines into the dirt, pick it up, reinsert it in the gun, and go back at it, and it turns out these guns can't handle that. At all. Neither can the guns handle just being simply dropped from waist height into dusty, sandy environments, picked up and then run. You're gonna have a shitload of malfunctions until you work that dirt out of the system. Now this is training. Normal SOPs for carrier duty guns don't have you doing 50 plus reloads between cleaning cycles on Tatooine. Every time you drop a mag, it's gonna pick up a little dirt, and you're gonna load it back up again, and then you're gonna put that dirt into the gun. And that's gonna cause issues. Absolutely. And that's not necessarily real world. But I do want to point out the susceptibility of these guns to dirt. Ultimately, depending on who you are, this is either a deal breaker, an annoyance, or you're going to say something along the lines of, bro, it's your carry gun should be clean, what are you doing? So, what are we left with? I personally think, obviously, once again, let's remember, I have very limited experience with the total lineup available to us, so my opinion is actually less than the average opinion here. But from what I can see, the Bull Armory does seem to strike a really good balance. It seems to have the quality of a much nicer $3,000 2011, mostly, at the price tag of the lower end of the spectrums for these guns. Where, yes, you can find a similar or better feature set for a lot cheaper, but these guns have a striking tendency to not really work even remotely reliably. And I'm not even talking about with the introduction of dirt. I'm talking about the gun just doesn't work. And this at least checks that box. I think it's really important to put a massive insert here. I think some people are going to be like, wow, look at that performance gain. Wow, look at that trigger. And they're going to convince themselves, probably because the gun also looks really cool, that they need to have one. Now, absolutely, this thing is on the cheaper end of 2011s, but it's still really expensive, $1,800. Most people are going to be better served to simply just get the Toyota Corolla, to get that striker gun of whatever make or model. It's significantly more reliable, and it doesn't require a elevated level of maintenance. It can be ignored, it can be pissed on, metaphorically of course, it can be just kind of discarded, and the gun's still gonna run. But that's not the case with these guys. These guys are gun people guns. Just keep that in mind. It's a good gun, but, don't feel the need to keep up with the Joneses and buy one of these because seemingly every single gun tuber on planet Earth is now running a double stack 1911. That being said, if you see all this, you understand the elevated level of care that's required for here, and you're still interested in getting into a 2011, but you haven't quite begun that journey yet, this might be the best entry-level 2011, considering the price tag, but also the performance that is on par with guns that almost cost double as much as this one. Well, assuming you can get your hands on one.
There's one thing we need to get out of the way, which is kind of awkward. And that's that you can't buy one of these. Not really. Now, it's not a case of you're not allowed to buy one of these. The issue is the demand is vastly exceeding the production capacity of Bull Armory. So much so that chances are, if you go on a website right now, you probably can't buy one of these. Now, I did talk to Bull Armory, and they said they are massively increasing production capabilities for future quarters, within 2024. So there's a good chance we're going to start really seeing these on shelves. And as demand goes down, as people buy them, you're going to have much more likelihood of a chance to actually get one of these in hand. But TBD.
I think with this video, you might have hit a couple points of, why does a good trigger matter? Why should I spend $2,000 for a handgun when I can spend $500? How the hell is any of that reliability issue worth it? I did answer all those questions in this video, but at that point, it became a 2011 video and not a Bull Armory video. So I split that off into its second video that will be coming up shortly. Why should you spend an absolute ludicrous amount of money on a Gucci gun? A 2011. Coming right up. Anyways, for the longtime viewers of the channel, dude, I appreciate you guys in the comments. I'll be real, there's a lot of you, so I can't respond to every single one of them, but I assure you I read every single one of them, including the ones that call me a freaking idiot. Hey, it's part of the gig, right? Okay, we'll see you guys next time.
Can I have my chips, please?
What do you mean?
I want my chips!
I don't think there's any chips in this house.
There are many chips in this house. Even the dog knows there's chips in this house. Give me the chips!
Essentially, you cut a foot of length off the front of any weapon system, and you shift the center of gravity way further.
Shut up, Sawyer!
So it's